Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Cosmic Culture, the channel where we talk all major movie and television news, theories, breakdowns, and much more. I'm your host Chris, and today we got the first official trailer for Thor, Love and Thunder. Super exciting trailer that gave us a ton of new ideas of what it is exactly we should be expecting in the Thor movie. Unlike many teaser trailers, we actually got some plot depth. Not just some really cool fighting scenes and jokes, but we have an idea of what it is exactly Thor will be up to. So we're going to cover that and a few other hidden things that you may have missed in the Thor trailer right now. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel and turning on that notification bell. Also, you can check me out on Instagram at Chris M. Rosser, Twitter at TheCultureChris, and a link to those channels and my Discord and others are in the description down below. So I want to talk about 4 different parts in this video. It's going to be a rather lengthy video. If any of these parts is more interesting to you than the others and you don't want to watch the whole thing, that's completely okay, I suppose, if you skip forward to those parts. It's going to go in this order. Part 1, initial reactions. Part 2, things you may have missed. Part 3, the plot development, what we've learned from the trailer. And Part 4, my guess as to how the film will end. Now, obviously, this is a very short teaser trailer and we don't have much else to go off of, so parts of this video might be a little bit speculatory, but there are also parts of this video that are a ton of fun and I'm excited to go over with you guys because this trailer did in fact give us a lot more information than most teaser trailers do. So let's start with part 1, my initial reaction. This movie looks like it's fun, it's colorful, and it is very up to date with the modern trend of successful MCU movies. Very influenced by maybe what James Gunn has done over at Peacemaker with Suicide Squad, and of course in the MCU with Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2 and their involvement in the MCU. Thor Ragnarok definitely also was headed in this direction, but this movie looks like it's taken it a step even further. So if you liked Thor Ragnarok, you're definitely going to like Thor Love and Thunder. If Thor Ragnarok seemed like a lot of funny jokes, not a very serious Thor, too many colors and too many different directions and things going on, maybe you won't actually end up liking Thor Love and Thunder. However, the majority of people out there were massive fans of Thor Ragnarok, so this is a step in even more that direction. And this trailer did nothing but prove that to us. And Taika Waititi has been saying that for quite some time. He took what we did in Thor Ragnarok and just pushed it to a whole new level. And that does heavily reflect from what we've seen in the trailer. Now for the long part, and that is things you may have missed. Now this was a very decently long teaser trailer with a lot of fun information behind it. It starts off with Thor and then teenage Thor wearing the helmet and then older Thor wearing the clothes we see him wearing in several of the Thor movies, and then current Thor kind of standing in fire, now finally in shape, having lost all of the weight. We walk through and we see that he's meditating. He's buried Stormbreaker from the stem down into the ground at this massive tree where he sits, and he's trying to figure out what exactly is. In fact, he even says, I need to figure out exactly who I am. This will not be the beginning of the movie, and we're going to talk about that in the next section. So as far as timeline and what's the order of this film, this section we're talking about what you missed. So this isn't the order of the film. However, that's how the trailer starts, and we see him meditating in this gorgeous atmosphere under a tree in several different scenes, because in one scene he's wearing his cape, in another scene he's wearing kind of a cardigan. So definitely a few days at least he spent at this tree, maybe trying to figure out who he is. You will notice here both of his eyes are blue, and they're matching blue. Whereas before he had lost his eye and Rocket gave him a replacement that was kind of a brown. So I wonder if maybe they just hadn't edited that part yet. We do know that they're a little bit behind and they just wanted to get us this trailer, and editing of the eye would have taken too long and they had to make some decisions. Or maybe he found another eye, got a real eye back somehow. This isn't explained, but no, if you've noticed this, you are 100% right. Last we saw him, he did have one blue and one brown eye, and here and throughout the entire trailer, he very clearly has 2 blue eyes. That could be from something that we missed that has happened and we'll be told about, or the editing just hasn't taken place for that just yet. I also want to mention something that I do think is completely irrelevant and won't necessarily happen, but I'll be upset if I don't mention it and it does end up happening. We see Thor burying Stormbreaker from the hilt or the holder of the Stormbreaker down in the ground. And if you recall, this is exactly how Groot was reborn. This is Groot's arm. Groot used his arm to forge Stormbreaker together and then kind of chopped off his own arm, which would obviously later grow back, and that's Stormbreaker. The arm of Groot is what holds Stormbreaker together. So he's burying the Groot portion of Stormbreaker in the dirt, and like I mentioned, when Groot sacrificed himself, Rocket put a stick of Groot in the dirt and a whole new Groot grew from that. And maybe we're trying to get a baby Groot again because of how fun and successful he was, and we'll have 2 Groots. We are getting the I Am Groot series, which maybe will come from this. A post-credit scene could be a baby Groot coming out of the ground here. I don't know if that's the case, but I felt like I had to mention it because it seems like a possibility, and I would have been upset if it happened and I didn't at least say something. So that's something else I've noticed there as well. We move forward in the trailer and we start to see some really fun things. For starters, the Fat Thor workout montage, which we all wanted. He's wearing a Strongest Avengers hat, and I don't know if that's merch he made himself or maybe Captain America merch or merch they sold on Earth and he bought it because he does consider himself the strongest Avenger, which I think is a lot of fun. He's obviously in a really weird place right now as an individual, and I just wonder whether or not he's kind of in this self-discovery to end up becoming a god. And we're going to talk about that at the very end of the segments here today. We do see that he's in a cave working out with massive chains. I don't know for sure who this skeleton character is, but it could be Sartor. It does look a lot like the cave where he was trapped, the chains he was trapped in. I get maybe that doesn't necessarily make sense, but it's possible Gore the God Butcher actually killed him. If you recall, we last saw Sartor destroying Asgard. It's possible he survived the destruction of Asgard and then came back to his cave where Gore did come, tie him up, and end up killing him. And now Thor is working out where his skeleton is. Whether we'll get to see that's what happened or not, you know, it's all really up in the air. This just really reminds me of that cave, and it does look like it could be Sartor's skeleton if that truly is the case. We then get our first look at Ravager Thor. Now this will be very early on in the film. Thor has run around with the Guardians of the Galaxy doing hero things, which is what he loves to do, is to be a hero. And we see he's wearing what is probably Quill's vest. We see in the toy leaks that this is Ravager Thor, and he's working with all the Ravengers. And we see the Guardians of the Galaxy are on a mission. They're a little bit annoyed with Thor. And then moving forward, he throws his little cape or blanket on top of Star-Lord's head, and then they kind of leave him. They go to the next scene and he's now in his normal clothes, back in his Thor clothes, and the Guardians of the Galaxy go and do what they were there to do. Now it seems to me, based off of his face and the fact that he's changed his clothes, that maybe he got cut from the Ravengers. Maybe they said, you know what, Thor, you're cramping our style, this isn't for you, you're too self-absorbed, or you're not mentally stable to do this. And they seemingly cut him from the Ravengers team. So what's next? Well, he's gonna go back to Asgard, and we see the Guardians of the Galaxy leave. And although we get a shot of Thor and Korg together, what seemingly reminds me of a massive party from What If. I don't know if this is a war zone or they just had a huge party, but he's back in his Ravager clothes. Korg is wearing a very interesting belt here, and there is a possibility, a slight possibility, that we're actually seeing Meganjord, which is Thor's magic belt. Now, I don't know if this is the case. I just thought it was worth mentioning because he does have some interesting clothes up here. A rope, some weird pants, and this very interesting belt, which might be a rendition of Thor's magic belt from the comics here on Korg right now. Don't know if that will come to play or not, but also was something worth mentioning. After seemingly getting dumped by the Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor returns to Asgard. We get our first look at this awesome moment. These comic book pets, Tooth Gnasher and Tooth Gasher, are the name of these flying goats who are pulling this boat behind them. Now we know from a lot of leaks and Lego sets that this is a tourist attraction, and this boat is actually being used to kind of give people something to do when they come to visit Asgard and the magic that Asgard has. We see in later scenes 3 or 4 different cruise ships pulled up to New Asgard, and it's very clear that all of the Asgardians are just running this touristic lifestyle, which isn't necessarily the potential, but I'm sure a lot of them are having fun. From there, we then see what is a new location, and it is gorgeous. It's flying up high in the clouds, and it is Mount Olympus, where the Greek gods reside. We also get an introduction in this amazing town to Zeus, and we'll talk about him in a second. Following the first look at Mount Olympus, we see Pirate Thor, who is getting kissed by a blue-haired character who might be his first mate. Not sure exactly what's going on here. Thor's going to be going on some real self-discovery after he gets fired by the Ravengers, and I think this is probably just part of that self-discovery. Maybe even a montage where he's speaking over saying, I've tried so many jobs, a cruise director, I tried to do the tourist things, I tried to be me, and I tried to be a pirate, and maybe that's what we're going to end up seeing here. Super fun idea, but not many answers for 1, who he's kissing, 2, what's he doing as a pirate, what's the whole over plan, but I don't think it's a very integral point to the entire plot. We then get our first real good look at Thor in his new outfit for the movie, and that's that gold and blue Thor outfit. Stormbreaker's there, all lit up. He's seemingly on the cruise boat, whether he stole it to take it somewhere else to Mount Olympus, or to figure out who he is. You can see even the kind of party lights behind him. He's on that cruise ship with the goats pulling it, going through space. We then flash back to Mount Olympus in this massive city hall room, this massive throne room, and we see a lightning bolt go through the air and then get captured by a hand. It then turns and we see a god holding the lightning bolt with his arms spread out, and this has to be none other than Zeus, played by none other than Russell Crowe, who we know is playing and has been rumored to be playing this character in the movie. So Russell Crowe as Zeus standing there, and there's something very interesting about this that I think could be important to the main storyline. Why are they introducing the Olympians? What's the whole idea? Why is their palace so gorgeous? I'm going to talk about this in just a second, but I do think that the introduction of Zeus is very, very, very important. So in the next section, I'm going to talk about why exactly I think Zeus's introduction right now is so important for Thor. So don't go anywhere. But let's continue talking about the trailer. After that, we see another good look at the suit, now out in the light. This is Thor's new suit. He's high-fiving Korg. He's excited. He's happy. Later on in the movie, it's always good to see happy Thor. Thor's a very emotional character, and to see that happiness come off is just an absolute blast. And of course, the suit looks fantastic. We move forward and we get that shot of the cruise lines. We see 1, 2, 3, 4 cruise ships there, and Royal Caribbean, Celebrity Cruises, Norwegian Cruise in the back, some really cool ships, and then you can also see tons of people taking pictures over the city with the tourism just super thriving. I don't think personally that this is going to be a very healthy thing for all of them to be doing. We have to keep in mind these are gods, and they're using their godly powers to make money off of tourism, and that's not their full potential, and I do think that that will start to wear down on them. Of course, we see the flying ship above, and to the right we see new Asgard tours on a van, so people are being driven around. Whether it's very gimmicky, which I'm sure it is not going to be the real potential of Asgard, and I think that that is going to show. And I think it's going to kind of wear down a lot of these Asgardians over time, and maybe they won't necessarily be happy with their new life. We get an interesting shot of King Valkyrie at a very important meeting, and she looks bored out of her mind. You'll notice to the right there is an alien standing there, and she seems to have all sorts of snacks and goodies, like she's too good to be there. And much like with the Asgardians, this is not what the King of Asgard does. She doesn't go to international meetings and talk about, world good and welfare. She is the King of Asgard. So sitting at all these meetings, being a part of Earth, it doesn't seem like it's working out so much for them. And I think that that's something that will be addressed later on in the movie. We get another look at Olympus, a huge statue of Zeus, which is super fun. And you see down on the floor, 1 red cape, 1 Korg, somebody who's probably kind of like a host bringing them through Mount Olympus, and another red cape. Could this be Lady Thor? We don't know, but I think it's definitely possible. The Thor red cape is pretty iconic, and there's 2 people here wearing one. So definitely possibly Lady Thor walking with them through Mount Olympus. We then get a really funny banter bit between Chris Pratt's Star-Lord and of course Thor, where he talks about looking at the people you love and you'll know what to do. And then Thor kind of puts his eyes in front of Chris's eyes, and Chris kind of puts his head around him. It's super funny, and I think the banter between these two is going to be a lot of fun to watch throughout the entire movie. And then the big title sequence and the big reveal. There's Broken Mjolnir being summoned by the hand of Lady Thor. Looks super good. Natalie Portman looks like she definitely got ready for this role. She's looking really jacked. She's looking fantastic. Her hair, the helmet, the suit, everything. Now we have to address, somebody's talking about behind here on the left, you'll see a moving creature that has big sharp teeth. This is not a symbiote, I don't believe. I'm going to say my opinion. It's hard to tell based off of this image. Is there a possibility to get Null and some symbiotes involved? Yes, 100% there is a possibility of that. Because, the sword that Gore the God Butcher uses, the all-black Necrosword, was actually created by Null, King of the Symbiotes. So a lot of people are excited for the possibility of that. However, we need to remember Sony owns all of the symbiotes and Null and all of that kind of idea of what creates these Spider-Man villains. So although we do have the sword and it's held by Gore the God Butcher, I don't know if Marvel's trying to always dash in and go and get stuff from Sony. Now it would be exciting to see Null, but also, we need to remember the MCU's timeline had to bring in Venom from a different universe. The symbiote that will be used to create Venom came from Tom Hardy's Venom, and we saw that at the end of No Way Home. So I don't know if necessarily the entire God King of symbiotes is going to be showing up when we had to go to a different universe just to even get a little bit of symbiote for Venom. Not sure, definitely a possibility, but I'm going to go ahead and say a very unlikely possibility. And that brings us through the entirety of the trailer. So I do want to talk about the next part 3. What is the plot? What did we learn from this trailer? Well, for me, it seems like mostly what is happening is Thor's trying to figure out who he is. And I want to say we did get a ton of information about the movie from this one teaser trailer, but that's mostly because we were sitting at zero. A few toy leaks, a couple set leaks, and then stuff we heard here and there, but you never know what's real. So we have a lot of real concrete evidence as to what to expect in this movie, and I am very excited for the direction it started to go. We kind of get to see the entire beginning of the movie form. It starts with Thor trying to figure out who he is. He ends up losing all the weight, which is good, and we're going to get a fun montage of that, of him losing the weight and becoming Thor again, and then he's going to end up going and joining the Ravengers. He's going to be Ravenger Thor, he's going to dress like them, and he's going to try to be involved in doing what they do, being a hero. We saw this at the end of Avengers Endgame when he let Valkyrie be king, because that's not what he wanted. He thought he wanted to do something different, but we hear that he's tired of doing hero stuff, and it also seems like eventually he even gets fired from the Ravengers. They get sick of Thor being Thor, not really working well with the team, which is funny since the Guardians of the Galaxy don't work necessarily together as a team that well as it is already. So definitely an interesting moment, and whether he decides to leave or they ask him, this isn't for you, or talk him out of being a Ravenger, the point is he's not a Ravenger anymore, and he goes on a self-discovery exploration. So he goes and he becomes a pirate, and he maybe becomes a tour guide, and maybe tries a bunch of different things, partying, hanging out with Korg. Korg always seems to be there to protect his feelings and to give him a wingman. So a little bit of self-discovery. He ends up meditating at the tree where we see he buries Stormbreaker. He's trying to figure out who he should be, and just being a Guardian of the Galaxy or just some random hero, the strongest Avenger, isn't enough for him anymore. He's trying to fill the void that was his destiny to be king of Asgard, which he isn't. We will later see on in the movie that he travels to Mount Olympus, and this is where I'm going to talk about why I think the introduction of Zeus is so important. Specifically, what is Zeus? The god of lightning and thunder, the god of the gods in Olympus, the god of the Greek gods, the head honcho, the god of lightning. Thor is also the god of lightning and thunder, the god of thunder. They have the same necessary powers. They probably have a connection, and it's going to be something really special. In fact, it's possible that Thor travels there to consult with the god of lightning for that part of the world, for the Greek gods, to figure out what it is necessarily he needs to be doing to feel like he's being a god the way he's supposed to be, and not just goofing around and being less than he's meant to be. And he's going to see Mount Olympus as a massive kingdom, and that the god Zeus is controlling and being king, and this is going to really sway his position maybe to want to be a king again. The god of lightning for the Greek mythology, Zeus, has this massive gold-plated kingdom, and he's living large. He's living up to his potential, and maybe that's when Thor will realize, hey, I should do that too. Now we get to the speculatory part. This is the part where we don't necessarily know what happens. We didn't get a lot of an ending from this trailer, and we don't usually, and that's okay. But maybe it's possible that Gore the God Butcher will show up and kill Zeus, right? What if that does happen and Thor sees it? And now Thor has a mission to get revenge for Zeus, the other god of lightning, and he's hunting down Gore for the remainder of the film. We see what Gore has been up to, or maybe we have had seen the entire time what Gore's been up to in the background, and that is the entrance of Thor versus Gore. I hope this doesn't necessarily end with Gore dying in the first movie he shows up in, but that is a real possibility, and I just have to say we should expect that. And if Gore continues on, how fun. He is a very, very fun villain, but he's going to introduce a lot of new and important stuff to the MCU, namely different types of gods, which we've already started to see in the Moon Knight series with the Egyptian gods and the Ennead. We know that Bast is going to be showing up again in Wakanda for Black Panther 2, and then of course the Norse gods, who have been with us since the very beginning of the MCU, are gonna probably be re-establishing Asgard and leaving New Asgard, which I hope is the case and the ending for this movie. I also hope that this is the start of a new trilogy where we start to get King Thor, and this isn't Chris Hemsworth's last movie. He has recently said he's good to play Thor for another 15 years, and he loves the role, so it's definitely a possibility that we could be getting a second Thor trilogy, and much like with the new Spider-Man trilogy, I hope that that is the case, because I do love Chris Hemsworth as Thor, I love Thor as a character, and there is a lot of story here to be told still. And that was really part 4. We're talking about the ending, the speculatory stuff, what's going on. Well, Gore's going to be introduced. I think maybe he'll kill Zeus, or will try to kill Zeus, and then Thor's going to have to chase him down the rest of the movie. Natalie Portman's Lady Thor was very clearly teased at the very end, but we don't have much story as to what's going on. He's not wearing his new suit that we've seen in the trailer. When we see her, he has kind of a black leather suit on, so I don't know how late in the movie this is going to be. Probably not too crazy late. And if you're wondering how she got Mjolnir, well, check it out. It's very broken. So this is the same one. This isn't a variant. It was put back together. How? We don't know, and we don't have an answer for just yet. But hopefully all of that will come to fruition for us, including more sights of Lady Thor, more sights of Mount Olympus and Zeus, the new suit that Thor is wearing, which looks so fantastic, more plot details, and a first look at Gore are hopefully not too far down the future, as we are waiting for the first full official trailer, more TV spot trailers, and a second mid-trailer, final trailer. Lots of stuff headed our way, guys. Glad we finally got a trailer for this. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Are you excited? Has it lived up to the hype? And can you not wait for Thor Love and Thunder to drop later this year? Thank you guys so much for watching to the very end of the video. If you found it helpful, useful, or entertaining, consider subscribing and turning on that notification bell. And I'll catch you guys all in the next one right here on Cosmic Culture.